welcome to the Closing Beat, everybody. My name is Dustin Tibbetts, financial advisor with jazzwealth.com. If you happen to be have a long-term retirement account, you have an old 401k or a IRA somewhere that you'd like to transfer, check us out at Jazz Wealth. We manage our own portfolios, and I really encourage you guys to go click on portfolios on our website. You can click on all one or all 7 of them that we currently have published there, and you can see the performance. So we rank them in order from most aggressive to most conservative. So if you find that you're a younger investor, you could take a lot of risk, well, you can see what we have to offer there. If you're nearing retirement or nearing your investing goal, work your way down that list and you can see our dividend fund, I think one of the best out there that's currently available, real estate fund, and some other things along the way, just getting more and more conservative. So check it out at jazzwealth.com. If we can help, of course, you know where to find us. All right, so this is the Closing Beat. If you're watching for the first time, this is just a show where we go over the stock market. We cover the good, the bad, and the ugly and try to teach you a little something along the way, if at all possible. Like to look at facts, don't like to look at opinions. It's nice to have an opinion, of course, but you know, when you watch like the sports channels and they spend all day on Sunday they just kind of go like, I don't know, I think Patriots are going to win, or I don't know, the Cowboys got this figured out, or whatever it happens to be. They're just giving opinions, right? We like stats. So we try to go over those for you, and of course we will cover that today as we go through it. Now, on the screen here, you've got the ticker up at the top telling you all about the global markets, commodities, and the U.S. indices, as well as some volatility and other fun stuff in there, like bonds. Off here to your right, or whatever side it is for you, that's the market today. So let's take a look at the markets. We had the Dow higher by 14, the S&P added 1, and the Nasdaq 100 closed higher by 12. So kind of a quiet day. We mentioned that in our Closing Beat today, where we said, you know, the stock market's kind of just floating around. And if you look at that bottom chart down here, you're able to see the market sold off a little bit, then rallied, then sold off again, then kind of flatlined for the day. Typical action for this time of year. However, it is not the only action you're going to see, because we've got some numbers coming out towards the end of the week, and of course we'll keep you posted on that. But today really just kind of a quiet day, so I thought we'd look at a few things here. First, on the board back here, you've got the S&P 500's performance for the day. Now, 86% of all of the stocks in the S&P 500 either were no change at all or lost less than 1%. So they didn't even lose 1%. Over here, you've got, of course, part of this 86% was either flat or gained less than 1%. So most of the stocks were between minus 1% loss and plus 1% gain. 86% of them right there in the middle. 10% of the stocks in the S&P 500, actually 10.4%, gained 1%, and 4% of the S&P 500 today, I mean like 13 names, I think, total, lost 1% or greater. So it gives you an idea that most of the S&P 500, remember the 500 stands for number of stocks. There's 500 stocks in the S&P 500 at the moment, and so most of them were undecided. There was no big move one way or the other, and I just thought that'd be interesting to break down those stats for you so you could see how that goes. So that explains part of the market there. Now, here's what I will tell you. Be ready for September. You know how we were able to kind of tell you that last week and this week would be fairly quiet in the stock market because of history? Well, let's take a look at September. I love the stats on this. For September, historically, the stock market, well, let's be more specific. The Dow. So the Dow loses, on average, 0.8% in the month of September, meaning it's a negative month. If you go back and you compare all of them, it's just a negative month for the Dow. In the S&P 500, the average loss is 0.5%, so could be a negative month. We haven't seen one of those in a while. If history repeats itself, or the stats go the way of the average, then the S&P 500 could lose 0.5%. Let's take it a step further, though. Losing 0.5% doesn't seem so bad, does it? Now we want to know about volatility, right? So all of our portfolios on our website, we talk about speed and volatility. So when we reference the market, speed, we know that the markets will lose about 0.5%. The S&P 500 loses about 0.5% on average. Now, how volatile is it going to be? If you compare August to September, going back to 1970, you have a stock market where the volatility increases by 25%. It's actually 28%. So what that means is this chart down here that you're looking at, you see how this is the movement throughout the day. That's every 5 minutes you're getting a little snapshot at what the markets are doing. Well, what that means is currently there's not a lot going on, right? It's sort of quiet. The market's not doing much. Well, when we get into September, expect that wiggling back and forth to be more exciting, at least by a factor of 28%. So that's something you want to look at. Now, taking it a step further before we get into the charts. A step further. The last 2 weeks of September are always the most active. Now, you want some numbers? We'll go over this a couple times, but there's only one stat I'm going to give you. If you take the last 2 weeks in September, you go back to 1980, and you go, what happened? Let's go all the way back and look. 70% of the time, the last 2 weeks in November is where the market turns negative and closes lower, the S&P 500, closes lower by 1.5% in those 2 weeks, right? So wherever it's at, it drops 1.5%. So keep that in mind, right? If we get into the latter part of September and you start noticing more whipsaws back and forth in your investments, your portfolios, the stocks you may own, whatever it is you may own, well, now you kind of understand why. If you happen to notice that it's a down month for the month of September and the stock market's a little lower, well, now you know why and you're not shocked, right? You know to expect this, and that's the kind of thing we like to talk about here at Jazz Wealth. Enough rambling. Let's get on over to the charts. We have the Dow on the screen here today, very similar to the S&P 500. And actually, to give you another stat, only one stock in the Dow 30 today was down by 1% or more. Every other stock was either down by less than 1%, I'm sorry, was up 1% or more. Start over again. Only one stock was able to gain 1% or more in the Dow. Everything else was flat, no loss of less than 1% or gain of less than 1%. So a very quiet day for the Dow, not much to say there. The S&P 500, well, we kind of talked about it on the chart there behind us, where most of the stocks today were sort of undecided. They didn't gain or lose very much. Well, take a look at the overall index. When you look at the S&P 500, you guys know, if you're one of our customers and you took the candlestick class with us or you watched that recording, you know exactly what's going on here today. So we've got this sort of quiet day where nothing really happened. We verified that on the whiteboard back here just a second ago to show you that most stocks weren't doing anything. And now look how cool that is. You can actually see it right there on the index. You don't even need all those stats that I spent like 25 minutes putting together, because you can look at one little blip on the screen and go, nothing really happened today. How cool is that? I don't know. I get excited by that stuff. So Nasdaq 100, a little bit better, right? So just a tiny little update today, breaking the new highs. We got the Mexican trade deal. Everybody's kind of working through that. Yeah, that's great. We have the Canada. All the focus is now on Canada with the trade thing with them. Are we going to be able to get something done? We'll see. It was sort of a slow news day for that. Let's go over to some of the stocks today. Best Buy is going to be in the news. Earnings weren't bad. Revenue wasn't bad. The company reported their earnings, of course, and it wasn't horrible, but they guided weaker going forward. Basically, they told Wall Street, don't expect so much out of us going forward. And for the current quarter that we're in, we don't notice as much strength as you guys are thinking. Wall Street's like, oh, okay, well, we need to adjust our price targets, blah, blah, blah. And the stock ends up falling about 5%. That was one of the retailers that grabbed some of the news. I'll tell you which one grabbed all the news was DSW. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been in a DSW. I think I can picture one. There's a mall, like if you're familiar with the Clearwater area of Florida, if you go over the Skyway Bridge and head south, I believe there's a DSW down there, but I've never been. Apparently, they're just killing it. They reported earnings much better than expected. If I lose you guys, by the way, there is a hell of a storm coming through right now, and I just see flashes of lightning going through the windows. So if I lose you, that'll be it. I probably won't be back. But anyways, DSW higher by 20%. Revenue was higher by 5% more than what was expected. So usually they just beat it by a little bit. Revenue comes in, you know, they're expecting a couple $100 million. You get a couple $100 million in $2 or something like that. They beat it by 5%, which is a killer beat for this stock, well, in general, for any earnings. And so the stock was higher by 20%. Great retail move there, or great help for the retail sector today. Tiffany reported earnings. Not so bad there. They got earnings of $1.17 a share. I believe that was like 16 cents higher than expected. The stock actually started a lot higher. You just had some profit taking in there. Not such a big deal. If we look at Walmart, that was your only stock in the Dow that gained over 1%. So we referenced that just a minute ago. That's actually the one that did it. Walmart basically just recovering off this pullback. What did we talk about yesterday? If you're a Walmart investor, we went over this exact same thing here. We talked about what might happen there, not predicting the future, just gave you an idea of what to expect. Did you enjoy that? Let me know in the comments. Am I off base? Should we talk about something else? How much more can I talk like this? Just stalling while I move over to the S&P 500. Okay, so in the S&P 500, airline stocks. So you kind of notice little patterns where the market's sort of, where money's moving, right? We pointed out the whole healthcare thing. Remember, for weeks and weeks we said money moving into healthcare, money moving into healthcare, over and over and over again. You get that little sense that money's moving into banks for some reason and airlines for some reason. I've got American Airlines up 3% today. If we go look at the rest of them, Alaska Airlines up almost 2%, Delta Airlines up almost 2%, and I believe, was it United was in there somewhere? Oh no. Well, let's just type it in there and see where they're at. United Airlines up 1%, so not too bad. If we look at all the other ones, Southwest Airlines, small gain on the day. I don't know, not anything too exciting. JetBlue 2% on the day, and as we go through some of the others, your regional guys, Spirit Airlines up 2.5%. You catch the drift here? You kind of see how that money's shifting in there. Some of these a little bit more than others because they're already in uptrends, but not bad. Makes me want to check the price of oil, but not really anything happened there. Tomorrow, remember, if you've been following the price of oil, Wednesdays have been active. Those crude oil reports that come out on Wednesdays have been volatile, meaning more or less than what we expected by significant amounts. So I'd expect the price of oil to be volatile tomorrow. Gold, well, not really much going on there either. You know, that's pretty much all I have for you. If you had AMD, we've been talking about that a lot lately. Look, that's just profit taking. We mentioned this yesterday that if you didn't get a chance to take your profits, you might want to hurry up and do it, because look what happened. This back and forth here today, yeah, it was down a little bit, but see how it was down? It was wiggling back and forth, and that's my technical term of the day. Wiggling back and forth, that's indicating your profit takers. Those are people that when the stock bounces up, they go, oh great, I get to take my profit, sell, and it pushes it back down. Then you have people that see the media headlines, like AMD is going to somehow go to $100 overnight, and when the stock falls, they go, great, I got a discount, and they buy. Well, that back and forth like that, that really causes that sort of activity. I would expect more of that to continue, at least over the next few days. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, really. Starbucks, kind of flat on the day. They finished their deal with Nestle. The Gap, a little bit higher, almost 2% higher today. They got upgraded. Campbell Soup, they said, hey, we're not going to sell ourselves. By the way, if you follow this Campbell Soup story, this is kind of interesting. Campbell Soup says, we're going to announce that we are not going to sell ourselves. What was that? What's about? Why would you do that? Like, I'm speechless. So that's like saying, I'm going to announce that I'm going to propose to my wife this Friday, or my future wife, or whatever it is. Why would you say that? The reason is the people that are after them, the activist investors, they're giving them the heads up. They want them to come back and talk. It's that whole game. It's a very interesting game if you get to watch it. But basically, Campbell Soup saying that they're going to announce that they don't want to sell themselves. That they hope just gets to the right people. I forget who it is. Is it Ackman? Bill Ackman? Is he involved in this? Anyways, so that's all they're doing. They're just playing games there. Nothing really crazy there. Donald Trump went crazy after Google. Google's like, no way, man. We're not doing anything wrong. And Aston Martin going to go public on the London Stock Exchange. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That's all I have for you. I like to try to keep the quiet days in the market as shorter videos so you don't think that there's actually a lot going on, which there isn't. Well, so I'll answer some questions if there are any. Fearless One, you want to start a Roth IRA? Where do I start one? Anybody want to tell him where he should start his Roth IRA? Anybody want to give Mr. Fearless One some advice? Jazzwealth.com, hint, hint. If you want to do it yourself, Fearless One, then no problem. So you just look for a brokerage firm that you like. Check out the platform, the technology, make sure it's easy for you to use. You can pick any one of them. Scott's Miracle Grow. Gee, I wonder why you have Scott's Miracle Grow. See, this is the problem with index fund investing, guys. So you're trying to decide between index fund investing, which is what everybody tells you to do for some reason, or should you keep trying to stock pick? This bouncing back and forth is the reason, you know, that nobody is good at index fund investing. So I did a video on that like last week. I'm going to do another one. I don't like Scott's Miracle-Gro, by the way. What you feeling on Dropbox? How they doing? Yeah, we haven't checked in on them in a while. Dropbox, after their IPO, got a little exciting. And then it sort of pulled back and never really recovered. If you look at the price of it now, hitting new lows, you're probably looking at next earnings before anything happens, to be honest with you. There's really no new news on Dropbox. I mean, unless they do something exciting, which they probably won't do, you're probably looking at next earnings cycle before anything exciting happens. Or if this thing falls rather rapidly, then it could be exciting there, but I wouldn't expect much out of it. We did talk about Walmart. Quarterly subscriber appreciation hour-long Q&A live stream. You can host that. Come on down, man. You can host that one. Actually, we're going to do an open house, so that'll be coming up probably later next week, if not the week after. We want to do an open house, so consider it kind of a Q&A session. We could talk about stocks, we could talk about whatever. I really just want to sort of explain to people that watch what exactly does it mean to work with Jazz Wealth. I mean, rather than, everybody calling or whatever, I want to show you guys, what it is and kind of go over screens and stuff. So we'll go through that. We're in Florida, basically Clearwater, John. That's where we're at. Goldman Sachs. They will shut the door on you. I tried to go into that one in Manhattan one time. They don't care. They don't care. They can smell that you're poor. Like they know. Close the door on that guy. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. Got a lot of work to do today. Thank you so much for watching. You didn't miss much in the market. If you're just joining us and you're like, hey, what happened? Didn't miss much at all. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, with the Doe Show at 1 o'clock. And then, of course, the closing beat at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. If we helped you in some way, hit the subscribe button, turn the bell on. That should tell you when we're live, ideally. That should tell you when we're live. And I really appreciate it. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.